Let's head into the metaverse. Just kidding. Let me start this off, guys, by saying, Beryl and Amy and Jeff, or Jiho, are super smart. I mean, we were just backstage, before this panel, and even just chatting with them for 5 minutes. I mean, these are three people who totally get what's going on, and even just talking to them for 5 minutes, you start to realize how much is going on in this space that maybe you're still not even in tune with. Everyone here is interested in crypto to some extent, but there are investors and there are people involved in certain protocols. They may not understand yet just how big NFTs and gaming are getting. So I think, Jeff, that would be a good place to start. Axie Infinity has gotten kind of so big so quickly. Talk to everyone, because I don't want to assume that everyone knows about what's going on in the world of Axie and how big play to earn has gotten.
Yeah, sure. So I guess with Axie, our goal is to introduce the world to this exciting but sometimes scary new technology of blockchain through something that's accessible, fun, and nostalgic. I think nostalgia is one of the most powerful human emotions. Axie has skyrocketed our DAU from 38,000 to about 1.8 million. It's 38,000 in April to around 1.7 million right now. We are the #1 NFT project of all time in terms of marketplace volume. So we've done over $2 billion of transactions of Axie-related NFTs. We have a maxed out Discord. It's one of only 5 or 6 in the world. We have players in every single country on Earth except for North Korea.
Why can't North Korea get on with
I don't know. Maybe they're using VPN, so they don't show up. But.
So let's make sure we define what that number is. So more than 1 people daily are in there playing on Axie Infinity. How much time on average are they spending?
Our players spend a lot of time in game. I think the average play time per day is around 2 hours per account.
Wow.
So this is right. This isn't just about having fun. It's also a form of income, a job for many. So.
Beryl, let's bring in Yield Guild, and maybe you can start by just explaining to everyone. You guys are a DAO that invests in these NFT projects, and Axie Infinity is your big one right now.
That's right.
Obviously, that has done well for you. What's down the road beyond Axie Infinity? What's next? And what are you looking for in terms of innovative projects that you guys want to back?
Right, so I'll define what we do first. So we're a gaming guild, and structured as a decentralized autonomous organization. We invest in various play-to-earn NFTs, and we actually lend them to our community of players through scholarships. So Axie Infinity is one of our bigger investments. We've invested in 11 other games. We're protocol agnostic. So for example, we've also invested in Star Atlas, that's actually on Solana. So F1 Delta, Sandbox, we have Nifty Island. So we're looking into diversifying our portfolio right now, and then looking into lending them out to our community of players.
What does that mean, lending out NFTs to others? We had a story that we wrote at Decrypt about how CryptoPunks, for example, have become such a status symbol as a profile photo that now there are services allowing people to rent them out so that someone else can get momentary clout. Is that what we're talking about? But when it comes to gaming, we're actually using these NFTs in a gaming environment. Talk about lending out NFTs.
Yeah, so maybe I'll use Axie Infinity as an example. So to be able to enter a game, you actually need 3 of these like NFT assets. So in the past, like last year, you'd probably be able to acquire them for a team of Axies for $150, right? Like right now, that team would actually cost you almost $1,500. So a lot of our community of players, especially those in the Philippines, that have actually lost jobs during the pandemic, are unable to actually acquire these assets. So Yield Games come in, and we actually lend three Axies to our players, and then they'd be able to use them, spend time in the game, and they earn in-game rewards in the form of Smooth Love Potion. And these SLPs can actually be converted into fiat currency through regulated exchanges in the Philippines, for example. And a lot of families were able to put food on the table, milk for their kids during the pandemic because of this.
It's wild. There's so much there I want to drill down, but Amy, let's bring you in. With what you guys do at Lightspeed Ventures, some of the VCs that have been at this event are pure play crypto VCs. they have firms that are invested in a bunch of different crypto companies. You guys are not that. I mean, you predate crypto. You look at your portfolio, there's a ton of big names in there that have nothing to do with the crypto world. Bonobos. I'm wearing bonobos. I mean,
That's great.
I think a nice thing to ask you is like, I'm sure that when you are looking at what to invest in, some of these things, there's sort of a learning curve. I mean, there's some self-education that has to come first before even being able to understand what is legitimate and interesting enough here that we want to put some money into this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in crypto, we've actually been investing since 2013. We're pretty concentrated investors. We have about 12 billion under management and about 30 companies in the blockchain space in our portfolio right now. I have personally actually been a gaming investor far longer than a crypto one. And so it's pretty exciting to see NFTs, gaming, and crypto all coming together. So, I mean, on the gaming side, we have a portfolio of about a dozen AAA games. Fortnite, Epic Games recently announced our Split Game, investment as well, and a number of other studios, and looking very deeply in the blockchain gaming side right now because it just is kind of like the next revolution in gaming. And at a high level, we are really excited about crypto because it's still early, I think, in adoption. In terms of a use case, the primary use case remains people trading crypto, but how do you bring the next 100 million users into DeFi or next billion users into DeFi? And we're very excited about social and gaming use cases to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Fortnite. A lot of what we're talking about when we discuss NFTs and gaming are, projects that were born in crypto. But do you see what's coming next as the games that predated it adopting the same kind of trends? I mean, surely people from Epic and people from other gaming companies, Nintendo, I have to imagine that they're looking at Axie Infinity, they're looking at what's happening with NFTs and gaming.
Yeah, there's pretty much no major gaming publisher that is not looking at crypto right now and blockchain. Actually, Axie Infinity really accelerated that process because I think they're seeing you guys doing something like 15 million revenue a day and everyone wants in on that. But I think in terms of sophistication and how do you implement blockchain in a meaningful way for players, that's something that they're still learning. And quite frankly, I think younger indie studios that are maybe like blockchain native might get there faster. But I mean, certainly those two worlds may converge pretty soon.
Yeah, Jiho, I mean, like I said, there's a learning curve here, and there's a lot of people who, they can't even begin to wrap their minds around what's happening here because they're still trying to understand NFTs, and then forget just adding the layer of your NFT is your ticket into a game, it's in the metaverse, you can lend out your NFT. I mean, I'm still having a lot of conversations with people who, they just kind of can't get there when you talk about NFTs. They say, how could this digital image be selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars? And you can kind of only go so far with trying to explain it. Do you take time talking to people like that when you hear from NFT skeptics? I mean, how do you explain, well, here's why this matters, and here's why it's not just, it's this new ecosystem, and here's why it's not going to vanish?
Sure. So 50% of our players have never used crypto before playing Axie Infinity. 25% of them don't even have a bank account. So not only do we sometimes have to explain, right, like NFTs, we sometimes also have to explain, right, like, I don't know, financial stuff and what is crypto, right? So there's a lot of education that we do with our community. 60% of our players have actually found out about Axie from a friend or a family member. So our community, it's not actually scalable for us to do all of the education and onboarding ourselves, right? This is where the community comes in. We have this really highly engaged, fanatic community that is out there in the real world explaining Axie Infinity to people and onboarding them almost by hand. So I also think about, right, I'm half Korean, and in Korea, every family has a group chat with, right, the elders or the grandparents, but no grandparent or very few of them actually know how to use a phone or download Kakao Talk, right? So why do they all have it, right? It's because it's seen as like this filial duty to help onboard them into Kakao, right? So I think that this is something that we need more of in crypto, where basically people are onboarding their friends and family because there's like a huge benefit and they don't want them to miss out on it, right? So I think it's really important for communities, like users, to actually, right, like show these products to people in their lives and onboard them kind of by hand. So it's not necessarily up to me to get the skeptics on board. I think it's a combined effort, and I think like users. We need users because users will create more users, right? So we need. I think that's the beauty of gaming, right? It's something that's relatable. It's not something that I don't know. It's something that makes more sense than a financial application, for example.
Beryl and Amy, I'd ask you guys, as people who've invested atop Axie Infinity, is it kind of like, well, you want to try out the thing that you're investing in? I often say that about crypto. I think people who cover the industry need to test out these tools a little bit if they're going to write about them. But at the same time, I mean, there's only so much time in a day, right? Like even when we cover and write about Axie Infinity, you want to test it out and try it, but then you hear 2 hours a day. I mean, I personally am really interested in the game, and I want to see how it works, but I'm never going to end up spending 2 hours a day in there. I mean, what was the kind of due diligence for you guys? How often are you actually playing these games? How much time are you spending on it?
Right. So when I actually look into scholarship applications within our Discord channel, we actually see applications, we'd like to play for 6 hours a day, please give us a scholarship. And we actually, so like right now, we have around like 5,000 scholars, and but we have like 60,000 gamers in our Discord channel. So a lot of them within, like the 5,000 scholars are mostly like Axie Infinity players. They're spending a lot of time, like the entire day basically because it's locked down in the Philippines. So they actually, as long as they have internet connectivity, a mobile phone, they just stay home and they end up like playing up to like 6 hours just to earn SLP. And we're seeing cash outs of SLP from $400 to almost like $1,000 per month per user. That's the average, and that's much more than their minimum wage of $200.
Well, and so I mean, we should say they're also earning money here, so it's not just gaming for fun, but.
I mean, as a consumer gaming investor, I absolutely play test every single game I invest in. I mean, we probably, in any given week, probably play test a dozen games. And, the last gaming investment that I did, I think I played for 20 hours before even taking the first meeting with the founder. And not just the games that we invest in, but also the top games out there right now, from the top publishers. And it's not that I'm play testing to get because I know whether the game is going to go viral or not. There's title risk in any game. You literally can't predict that. But it's important to understand what is on trend by genre, and what does the quality look like of a play test. Understanding that it's probably maybe still years from launch. So I think any investor that's investing in gaming, not play testing or asking a play test, is not doing it right.
Let's zoom out a little bit, and I always want to make sure that we hit whatever the title of the panel is. And I didn't name the panel, but it says that NFTs could 10x crypto's user base. I mean, let's talk about that. Can NFTs really be the doorway for newcomers? Because as much as crypto has really gone mainstream, and I think that the past 3 days of this conference have reminded us of that, NFTs has been one corner that there was certainly a lot of hype. There was an initial NFT boom. Then there was a little bit of a down cycle, and you had a lot of people say, oh, they're dead. They were not dead. Now we're in kind of the second NFT boom. Do you guys see NFTs, whether it's gaming or not, that way, that, that Jeff, they could be kind of the doorway and the bridge that brings people who previously stayed out of crypto in?
I'm happy to start. I mean, just like in crypto, I mean, the last rally, the 2020 rally was maybe like the 5th rally in crypto. And like this year, this is the second NFT rally, right? You have Q1, and then they crashed in April, and then I think they're back up again. It tends to be cyclical with, how Ethereum and some of the other major tokens are doing. And so I think that it's volatile because the number of total users is still very small. Yep. Like the dominant, use case, there's definitely people who are collectors, but most people are trading NFTs to make money, and and people are speculating. And so if you have $500 million in Ethereum, then spending $1 million of it on a rock or something like that is actually not that maybe doesn't appear that expensive to you, or and so that's why I think the stability that we're going to see this rally, though, you have a broader audience, you have Budweiser, you have Visa actually buying an NFT, and that's pretty phenomenal, right? In terms of the next stage of adoption. But I think we're pretty far from mainstream adoption, and again, I think gaming can get us there. There's 2 billion gamers in the world, and so but I think that's still in the future.
So from my end, maybe I could actually talk about the behavior of our users. So our users are, they've never heard of crypto before. They just turned into gaming because, they wanted to play and to earn. And what's really fascinating is, so when they onboard, we give them the Axies, right, the account. So they don't need to actually create a MetaMask wallet and so on and so forth. We give them the Axies, they play, they see that, oh, I have rewards. And then once we actually transfer the rewards to their, for example, wallets, it's interesting because now they actually learn, oh, I have rewards. It's kind of like a carrot for them, and they figure out how to cash out. And yeah, they figure out how to set up their MetaMask because it's real rewards. And now that they have their SLPs, how do I use exchanges? How do I cash it out from exchanges? And what's also fascinating is, so some of our players actually have a non-ending loop of debt in the Philippines. And so whenever they actually end up with rewards, they figure ways on, they actually have full control on what to do with their rewards. Do they actually pay their debt? Do they actually spend money to put food on the table? Or do they eventually buy their own NFT assets and then start their own scholarships? So a lot of the managers that actually facilitate these scholarships as well were once players. And they end up like being able to buy their own assets, and then they end up like breeding them, and they end up lending them out again. And they become entrepreneurs
Virtuous cycle. Yeah.
Investors themselves, yeah. So I think, I think these are the first set of like users that could actually get into crypto adoption because of gaming.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, I would just push you on, there are the people who are in something like Axie and they're spending a lot of time in it, and many of them, maybe it's to earn, but maybe it's also because they are gamers, they identify as gamers. And then there are the people from the traditional finance world who have discovered NFTs, but as Amy said, mostly as a speculative investment. They like it because they can buy it, they watch their Bored Ape go up in value, and then they either keep holding or they flip it, make more money. I mean, what do you see happening next down the road in terms of the different kind of use cases for NFTs?
I think that gaming is still really unexplored, right? With Axie being the only game right now that uses NFTs and has any kind of significant amount of traction. So I think that we'll see new experiments in gaming. I think that we'll start to see the blending of gaming and finance, and then we also have, so the way that I look at crypto, is I kind of see like 3 buckets, right? There's DeFi, the financial payments rails. There's NFTs, which are kind of like the content layer, the entertainment. And then there's social coordination, right? Some people might think this falls into DAOs, right? So it's like, right now that we actually have attracted these large communities, larger than last year at least, we need to figure out how to communicate with them, right? How to coordinate, how to reward them properly for all the hard to measure things that they add to an ecosystem. So I think the next set of tooling and building will be actually a lot around social coordination, and then we'll also be able to figure out like what types of games work really well using NFTs based on those tools as well.
We've been talking a lot about Axie Infinity because we got the founder, we've got 2 people who are invested and play it. But Amy, let's maybe wrap on this. What are some of the other interesting, either existing investments in your portfolio or projects that you're keeping an eye on that also are using NFTs interestingly and might, bring us back to our theme of onboarding new people to crypto?
Yeah, we're actually making our first investment in blockchain gaming that we're going to announce in the next few weeks. It's
you could announce it right here, by the way, if you want.
I think the CEO would be really upset with me, so I won't. But it is this concept of, right now there's something like 200 blockchain gaming teams right now. I think that, what are we looking for? We're looking for a team that not only understands how to build the community to get them excited on the NFT drops prior to launch, which I think some of these best teams do. Like Nifty Gate, there's a lot of Nifty Islands, sorry, and a few others. But we also really want to see that the team at least understands how to build the game. And I think there's more crypto native blockchain teams right now. Now that's like changing pretty quickly. And one of the most incredible use cases of NFTs is that it might take somebody like 2 to 4 years to actually launch a game. And in the AAA world, how do you keep the community engaged? Right. Well, like if you can actually do regular NFT drops, then that's like an incredible way of actually putting community members with skin in the game to then get them really excited about your game once it launches. But then once it launches, then you actually need game design, game art, the know-how in order to make deep content, character progression, all of those things that game makers have been figuring out and perfecting for the last 20 years. And so I think right now we're in a moment of time where, I mean, other than Axie Infinity, there's really not a lot of great games that also incorporates blockchain that is actually live.
Right.
Right.
Like, it exists. You can play it now.
Yeah. In maybe 18 to 24 months, there's going to be hundreds of games live. And at that point, it's going to be, very competitive, just like it is in normal gaming. And then, how do you cut through the noise? You need to have a fun game. You need to know how to do live ops. You need to do a lot of these things that I think the AAA world have sort of learned for a long time. And so that is ultimately, what we're looking for in terms of investments.
Well, you heard it here. If you want to get investment from Lightspeed Ventures, and you've got a gaming and NFT project, now you know how. You guys have been terrific. Thanks so much. Can we get a round of applause for these three?